The preseason of the LTA Split 2 for the North and South is finally done. We're getting into real games, but before we get there, we got some overreactions to go through. Because with 3 weeks of games done, I'm sure there's some people that got some pretty spicy takes. So I turned to Twitter, asked you all, and we're going to go through them. Starting with and doubling down, Renan Lowell says, this format kind of sucks. That's an underreaction. I'm going to be honest with you. The format so far through the first 3 weeks is ass. Hot ass. Terrible. Thank God I never have to see another freaking best of one for the rest of this year with the LTA, because if I see another week where I have to watch 4 straight games of Nefiri, of Varus, and you name your other pick, I think Ezreal was like the most common pick besides that, I'm gonna freaking lose it. I don't mind 2 games. I don't mind like the first game of a best of 3 series for both teams, get it out of the way, move on to the next thing. I don't even care if it's the same comps between games 1 and 2 in both series. I'm fine with that. That's more diversity than what we are seeing right now. I cannot stand watching old school best of 1 drafts with every team playing on the day. I can't do it. It's the worst thing in the world, and thank God it is done and over with. Hallelujah, let this format never, ever, ever come back, and let best of 1s be gone forever. Viewership argument, my fucking ass. Freely Dan hitting us with the hot take after Team Liquid notably dropped their game against the Skies today, being the first of the top 4 teams to lose to a bottom 4 team. He said TL is on the verge of being a bottom 4 team. I'm going to be real with you. TL without Spawn, I think really is on that cusp, if not 5th. I think somebody can absolutely beat them in a best of 3 without Spawn there in person. I know Team Liquid tried to make like this whole big ordeal during the offseason of like, oh, I'm going to have cameras everywhere and all this. I'm sorry, but TL plays like freaking ass whenever it comes to stage, whenever Spawn's not there. And it just progressively gets worse as time goes on. So Spawn needs to make a trip out there to LA to be there in person, because if this TL is playing like this, there is a chance that they get upset and start the like playoff stage of Split 2 in the lower bracket. So yeah, TL looks terrible right now. I don't know how they're losing some of these games. Impact absolutely on retirement watch after his game today, but again, they're still top 4 in the league at the moment, but they are on the cusp of somebody stepping up and beating them and knocking them down to the bottom 4, assuming that Spawn does not get here, because I swear to God, Spawn's going to get here, and they're going to win the split, like they did in Split 1. So they always drop this game against that random team that you wouldn't expect them to lose to, and then bounce back better. Maybe it's just a wake-up call, but like whatever they're doing right now, it ain't working. And I don't know if you need to bring somebody else in. I know they were trying out different players. Maybe now's like the time with best of 3s. Maybe you wait until summer, but TL in this current form stands no chance at all of beating anybody but 100 Thieves on a consistent basis, because we'll throw Otacon for them. And then they're not making MSI at all if they play like this. Not even close. Leo, the stats guy. If you didn't know, he does like that touchscreen thing that you see on the LCS board that like allows you to pick different teams. Like Emily Ram was messing with it this weekend as they would kind of figure out groups. He's the one I believe that is responsible for that behind the scenes. He said the DSG reverse sweep starts right now, to which I would say, hold your horses, brother. They beat a Team Liquid that has a tendency to choke. I'm still not fully convinced on the Skies, specifically Abadage, even though he had a great game today. I'm just not convinced that that's going to be it. I'm not convinced that it's enough for Disguise to be able to do anything. I mean, their group that they got, let me pull this up and look at it now. Cloud9, TL, Lion, and Disguise. Now, I know a lot of people were high on Lion coming into this week. I personally don't think they looked all that good, even though they had moments where they could contend. And I think best of 3 is actually going to expose them a little bit more than best of 1s, which really kind of prop them up. I don't have any particular reason for that. I think like everybody on their team is somewhat playing well. And I think they're definitely like favored to go 3rd in this group. But everybody outside of Cloud9 in this group A, I can see choking. Like whenever it comes clutch time, whenever it comes like these higher pressure moments to either lock in upper bracket or lock in lower bracket, like I could just see a world where they don't do much or practice goes downhill. I'll piggyback this on the negative side. Hammerfy said, I feel bad for Disguise. The org had potential, but squandered it away by trying to be competitive with signing washed up old pros instead of staying true to the young NA talent that had people supporting them to begin with. The charm of support us, we're hungry is lost. I do somewhat disagree, actually, with the idea that they're not trying younger players. Scary Jerry being the one that you look at and be like, hey, it's a new face. They are trying him out. The Abadage pick is the one that I know most people are going to look at and be like, that doesn't make sense. And for the majority of the split, barring coming off of this best of one here against Team Liquid, yeah, he hasn't looked great, really. XU last week had one of the worst weeks that we've seen a jungler have all year in North America so far, but he's still a younger player. And just because you have names like Licorice, Abadage, and who he is for support, and you have the veterans, like, I don't think it's fair to just sit here and say that this guy's is like pure veteran squad taking up a full thing. Like near airport is a full veteran squad, barring like TF Blade. Like that's like veteran taking up slots. That's not what this roster is. You still have Scary Jerry and you still have XU who need time to develop and try and hone themselves. They get like, I mean, Scary Jerry is his first year. What the hell are you gonna say? So I think that part of it is disingenuous. However, the supporters were hungry is lost. Yeah, I've never really connected with that branding message of this guy's being like, you know, hey, we're poor. We're like the low budget apartment tour. Like, it makes for decent content because I know there are some people out there that do genuinely enjoy like the underdog story and trying to work your way up. Sure. It just doesn't resonate with me and never really has. I like this guy's sense of humor. His tweet today from the Simpsons thing being like, not today, old friend, whenever they finally won. Fantastic. Love that. But like the low budget type stuff, it doesn't do anything for me at a tier 1 level. I do expect you to kind of have like some elevated stuff. Not my fandom. So whoever wants to enjoy that can enjoy that. I do think like that part of it might be a bit of a fair reaction to a certain extent. We'll see as time goes on how many fans Disguised has. I know whenever we looked at the amount of people that were in LTA Fantasy, their number was definitely lower than most others, barring Dignitas. But overall, I'm more disappointed with Shopify's content and what they've done this year than anybody else, even though you had like Ludwig co-streaming this past weekend, which was great, but like the efforts outside of like game days themselves, I don't think have been spectacular from Shopify at all. I guess we're gonna get hella toxic here. Noodle Lad Jr. says the LTA cannot field 8 teams. We can field 5 at best, and the league is a zombie at this point. I couldn't possibly disagree more with the idea that we should only have 5 teams in this league. What do you want from us at that point? Like, if you're only gonna have 5 teams in it, what's the point of the goddamn league? Like, I'm sorry, do you want us to merge with somebody else? But just having 5 North American teams there without any other competition around is just dumb. I hate that idea. The fact that we can't field 8 teams, personally, I blame GMs on that front more than anything else. I think the roster construction from some of these guys is just sus at best in terms of not being able to build fan bases, not being able to do much content with the squads that you've built out. For Dignitas, you've got players that you should be able to market and brand better, but for some reason, it hasn't really connected all that much outside of game days, and the talent isn't really like evolving to that point, but it's also still early in the year, so I'm still willing to give it more time, and I do subscribe to the idea that, yeah, being on a bottom 4 team, unfortunately, just means that you are trapped in certain situations. But personally, I'd still have 10 teams. The league was best when it had 10 teams, even whenever you had teams that were getting blown out. I was just looking last night as a result of Disguise being winless into like the worst teams that the LTA had ever seen. Dude, we had some ass teams at 9th and 10th place, but dear God, was it still fun to watch them sometimes and just be like, oh man, they're that bad. I was watching Disguise today for that reason, because it's like, oh man, they were that bad. And they finally won a game, so then they've left the conversation of like worst team in LTA/LCS history. But I don't think dropping more teams does you any good. If you want to flame these teams and brands for like what they're putting out in terms of content, in terms of brand building and fan bases, fine. But in terms of like the actual competitiveness and structure and setup of the league, no, I want 10 teams. Simple as that. I hate having 8. 8 feels so low. When you compare that to the LEC and some of the variety that they have there, oh, dude, it just sucks. I hate it. I'd rather have more teams in a league. And then, yes, some teams get eliminated. And there's days where I don't watch because it is 2 ass teams. Or maybe they actually have a storyline that I do want to tune into. Like the Spud fight between Dignitas and Disguise yesterday. That was fun to watch them potato fight it out. Personally, I enjoy watching bottom feeder teams do that type of thing. But I hate this idea that just because like you think that the product is bad in terms of what you're seeing on the Rift, that you want less teams. I hate that mentality. As for the league being a zombie at this point, I've beat the viewership point to death. There's nothing else for me to say at this point. I will say I enjoyed having Monday games this week. I don't know what viewership's like. I haven't even looked into that at all. I don't care. It was really nice to have more days of games on a Monday. Like, it's so nice. And the final overreaction is that Shopify is actually a better team than Lion, and I think they take a game or possibly a series off of Fly or 100T, especially the way 100T has been mismanaging early games. Here's the problem with that point. 100 Thieves has been mismanaging early games and kicking the face in of every team that they've played in terms of the bottom four. The second an actual mid-game team fight comes along, no matter how far they are behind in these matchups. I do agree with the fact that 100 Thieves are playing worse right now. The players have talked about how they had a bad week of scrims, how things have not been as productive this week, and quite frankly, our bot lane, especially in lane during some of the early week matchups, was running it down. And even earlier on in the season, there was the coin flip bot lane that I think FBI and Ayla took that just was weird. Really weird, that got us behind. And I think that was the FlyQuest game, and then it just snowballed out of control. Sniper, I will say, is stepping up, pressing his leads a lot better. But yeah, apparently we were doing terrible in scrims, as River said in the interview today, that apparently he runs it down, and I'd imagine some others do too. I don't want them to stop limit testing to the extremes, but at some point, if it's causing bad scrims, it has to turn around at some point. But despite all that, they're still winning on stage. So like, I get why people constantly doubt 100 Thieves. I'm very well aware of that narrative at this point, and I've said more than I probably should on that front. But the reality is, 100 Thieves have not lost to the teams that they shouldn't be losing to outside of international tournaments. It might not look sloppy. It might not look how you want it to look, just because obviously FlyQuest and C9 can look clean and do look clean. Like, I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be that way. At the end of the day, as long as you win, you win. And I don't care what the opinion is elsewhere of that, but 100 Thieves is not dropping a game to either, or a series, sorry, to Shopify Rebellion or Dignitas. I can see a world where we draft ourselves into a corner, maybe drop a game, but I don't think we are in any risk at all of actually dropping a series. For FlyQuest, no, nobody in this group is beating FlyQuest, not Shopify, not Dignitas. And a best of three, like, I don't think, like, best of ones are going to give people like the false impression that some of these teams might be able to take a game, even though it shouldn't, because they literally won one game against the top four. In a best of three, that becomes next to freaking impossible. And the top teams are going to look really good. And it is kind of weird to me with the schedule of how they're doing it, that we're going to have like the best matchups, the FlyQuest versus 100 Thieves, the TL versus C9 in week one. But I kind of understand why they're doing that at the same time, because we know that we're probably going to get those matchups in playoffs. So they're just allowing that to be what it is early on. But I think those will be the close ones that I want to see, if they are like, if there is that separation between FlyQuest and C9 and 100 Thieves and TL, or if they can step up in those best of threes, because I'm expecting pure dominance from the top four over the bottom four in best of threes. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe somebody will come along and actually step up. Maybe Shopify will, see themselves to the top of the table, or at least like to the top half of the table, and maybe, contend with the likes of somebody that's more on the bubble, more like Team Liquid whenever we swap over. But I doubt it. I realized I went through this entire thing without bringing up a C9 take at all, and I feel like I kind of have to take one given the nature of the fact that they're the #1 team in the league, even though I don't want to talk about them. Healy said Cloud9 will go undefeated through groups. They won't even drop a map. Lion will be second out of Group A. I mean, with their group, they have three very weak teams, I think, in their group, at least in terms of like current standing and current form. So there's really not much to say about C9 during this group stage. I think they should blow through 6-0 pretty easy, which could end up hurting them once we get to the bracket stage. But that is more dependent on like the scrims and who they're playing. I mean, realistically, they can scrim FlyQuest all they want during the stretch, because they won't face them until the cross week matchup, which is in 4 weeks. So they have a ton of time to scrim 100 Thieves, FlyQuest. I mean, even after they get this initial matchup with TL out of the way, they can scrim TL as well. So I think they'll be ready come playoffs. As of right now, they look absolutely like the best team in the league by a long shot. But I am curious to see what happens whenever they don't have some of these leads early, because right now they're just smashing people, like absolutely obliterating them. And I'm curious to see if anybody steps up to challenge them, or just goes with that late game scaling draft that can ultimately beat C9 out, because I think you can potentially be more decisive than them in late game team fights, as history has shown. But so far, nobody's done it. But it's also only best of ones, so I don't know. But that's going to be it for Overreactions this week. I'm probably going to save the rendezvous for Thursday this week, just because I got an event at NYU tomorrow. I'm speaking with Greg Kim, formerly with CLG, and Matt, who's currently with Dignitas right now, as we discuss like the state of esports, me coming from the influencer angle. So I don't think I'm gonna have time. I think we might do a happy hour tomorrow, and then Wednesday I actually have a happy hour with coworkers as well on Wednesday. Oh God, this week's filming is gonna be interesting. I'll keep you posted. Check on Twitter. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Drop a comment down below with your overreactions if you have one that you don't think was covered. Let's see if C9 continues to be the best team in the league. I'm not 100% sold on it. I think they could get a little bit more exposed once we finally get to best of threes, but who knows?